Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much. Mr. Ambassador, in your comments, you said that U.S. support should not be open-ended. Certainly agree with that. You also point out that whether Iraq realizes its potential is ultimately up to the Iraqi people. Is that not correct?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
You point out in your testimony the need for a reinvigorated cabinet, for political balance, the need for delivery of services to the Iraqi people, need for the rule of law, the problems of corruption, which are enormous, you say, the disputed internal boundaries, the return of refugees, the return of internally displaced people, the rights of minorities and women, all must be protected. All of this is part of what needs to be done in what we call reconciliation. Am I not correct, Mr. Ambassador?
Yes, that is correct, Mr. Chairman.
The surge in forces and the counterinsurgency doctrine has led to reduced violence. And its purpose was to create political space for the Iraqis to move forward on reconciliation within its government and within its people. Now, we know there's been some incremental progress, but there's not been this fundamental reconciliation, the list of which you just gave us. So where do we go from here? We will be returning the surged forces, redeploying them. So what is our strategy for the future? What leverage do you have on the Iraqi government to take the training wheels off and to get on with its task? We've been at this now for years. How do you do that? General, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, I would point out that they want to do that as much as we do. Indeed, they are they put themselves under enormous personal pressure and collective pressure of the various political elements in Iraq to increasingly exercise their sovereignty. In fact, that's exactly what Prime Minister Maliki did, of course, when he decided as the constitutional commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Iraq to deploy forces on short notice to Basra and then to enter into operations against militia elements down there that were the source of crime and other security challenges. That was not something that we pushed him to do, candidly. I mean, there was...
Pull the microphone just a little closer.
Okay, sir. That was something that they wanted to do. They feel that pressure themselves. So, again, it's not about us twisting their arm, I don't think, to exercise their sovereignty. It is truly about us enabling that and trying to support it as much as we can while keeping as light a hand on the bicycle seat as possible. There are numerous provinces throughout Iraq in which we have no forces or virtually no forces, perhaps a special forces team or not much more than that. And by the way, these were challenged. Some of these provinces were challenged during the outbreak of violence that accompanied the start of the Basra operation. And in the bulk of those southern provinces, Iraqi forces proved up to the task.
At what point, General, will you recommend redeployment of additional forces beyond the several brigades that are part of the so-called surge?
Well, as I have laid out, Mr. Chairman, we will be reducing by over 1/4 of our ground combat powers, not just the five.
From what to what, sir?
From 20 brigades to 15 brigade combat teams, and also taking out 2 Marine battalions and the Marine Expeditionary Unit. That's a substantial amount. At the end of that, we think it makes sense to have some time to let the dust settle, perhaps to do some adjustment of forces.
Yeah, that's my question. At what point do we start? Do you make recommendations to start going into the 15 brigades?
As the conditions are then met, and we look at the security and local governance conditions that allow us to thin out our forces and thereby to redeploy additional elements. And again,
what would those conditions be, General?
As I said, sir, it's essentially what we have used in the past, as we are thinning out very substantially right now. And we had to decide where to do that. And we looked at primarily the security and local governance conditions, the enemy situation, the ability of Iraqi security forces to take on more of a load and us to take on less of a load, the ability, again, of the local authorities to carry on and perform tasks in some cases that we were helping or perhaps performing. Again, those are the conditions that we examine. That's exactly the process that has guided us as we have determined which forces to take out and where to move them during the course of the reduction of the surge forces.
Can you foresee the reduction beyond the 15?
I can foresee the reduction beyond the 15, yes, sir. Again, the key is, in fact, we're looking at 4 or 5 locations already that we have an eye on, looking to see if those conditions can be met there. Again, we have a number of months and a number of substantial actions to take before then, but we are already identifying areas that we think are likely candidates for that.
And do you have a judgment as to how many brigades of that 15, as you look at those certain areas, could be redeployed?
Sir, I'm not sure. Again, what we're doing is looking at these different areas. Over time, I think all of them are going to. But again, the question is at what pace that will take place.
Mr. Ambassador, outside businesses, mostly American contractors, have been substantial employers in Iraq. Can you tell us, beyond the American contractual employment, how many market sustainable jobs have been created in the last 12 months?
I can't give you a reliable figure. Statistics.
What's your best judgment?
Thousands and thousands of jobs, Mr. Chairman. I referred in my testimony to one district of Baghdad, the district of Dora. A year ago, there were no markets. There was no economic activity at all. The Dora market today has something like 1,000 separate shops that are open and doing business, and this has been replicated throughout the country, in Ramadi, in Fallujah, in Anbar, in other parts of Baghdad. There has been a very substantial increase in economic activity and job creation as a result. The Iraqi government is also moving forward to create more jobs. The Council of Ministers yesterday passed a support program for development in Mosul, Baghdad, and Basra, all 3 areas affected by conflict, $350 million for reconstruction and for job creation. So this is an ongoing process as conditions improve.
My understanding that some people within our government state that the unemployment rate in Iraq is between 25% and 50%. If that is the case, can you predict what the unemployment rate will be 1 year from now, Mr. Ambassador?
I cannot predict what it will be exactly because, frankly, we don't have a great deal of confidence in figures that indicate what it is now. There is both unemployment and underemployment. What I would be confident in, with the continuation of the security improvements we've seen, is that in conditions of better security, you are going to see more economic activity. And that's
do you agree, Mr. Ambassador, that jobs and economic security or the basis of a strong Iraq?
That is absolutely the case, Mr. Chairman, and that is why both we and the Iraqi government put so much emphasis on job creation and economic development.
Yeah. Please hold your microphone closer. Mr. Hunter.